There's a letter going around. Let me say there is a forged letter going around stating that Rigathi Gachagua was sacked as a DO1 in Laikipia in 1997. The letter is supposedly authored by Kuindwa. Kuindwa by then was the secretary to the cabinet and head of the civil service. I wanted us to discuss about the letter, and I wanted to discuss about Rigathi Gachagua of 1997. Remember, the letter is supposedly written in August 1997. So in 1997, August, I was in Madeira. So I wanted us to share. I wanted to share what happened in Madeira during that time. Of course, what I saw is quite different. The environment is quite different from the content of the letter. Very quickly, before we start with the letter, is that in 1997, there were in Kikuyu land, anybody who was associated with KANU was politically was blacklisted, and during those days, Rigathi Gachagua was in the front line, being a civil servant, being a DO. He was in the front line in being on the KANU side. Those are the time, I remember in 1997, where people confronted Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and told him that even if his father was to wake up, he was to rise up from the dead and contested with that cock, meaning KANU, we will still reject him. So Rigathi Gachagua by then was very close to Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. If I am not wrong, by that time he had not yet been made the PA to Uhuru Kenyatta. No, but he had not yet been made the PA to Uhuru. I think he was made the PA to Uhuru Kenyatta between 1997 and 2002. You hear him you can even hear him talking. He tells when he got annoyed with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, he said that it is I who went and got you out of your drunkardness, and then it is I who got you out of the drunkardness and took you to politics. Why do you go back and betray me? Why do you go back and betray me? Yet I am the one who made you up politically. The truth be told is that somewhere, Rigathi Gachagua left the civil service. And before 2002, he was returned to the civil service with an express assignment. His assignment was that he had been identified as somebody who could pull Uhuru Kenyatta out of his drunkardness and go back to politics. And even after 2002, when Uhuru Kenyatta was made the minister, Rigathi Gachagua was made his personal assistant. It is good for us to know the truth, because mixing the falseness, as I keep on saying, that maybe the outcome of the Kiambaa case in Eldoret was in Gishu may have been different had people not included the name of Lotodo. You see, Lotodo had died 7 years earlier in South Africa, and when ICC was being told of the people who planned for the Kiambaa incident, uh, included the name of Lotodo. What am I saying? I'm saying that a bad apple spoils the rest. You can have so many good apples, but if you place there one bad one, it will spoil the rest. So let us not mix falsehood, which may save a person who is not good. But I'll come to that. So when we talk about the letter, the supposedly letter for sacking Rigathi Gachagua, there is no reference number. There is no reference letter. There is no government letter or any official letter that has no reference number. The reference number talks about the file. This letter will be placed in a certain file, so that tomorrow, if you want to look for the letter, you look into that file. And then it stroke serial, what do you call serial number? If it is Pole 50 stroke 30 stroke whatever, then the last one is 72. It means that it is on page 72 of that file. There is no reference number of the file of even the letter. And the person who forged the letter did not even have Frank Quindua's signature. He did not have Frank Quintua's signature. Now, a letter without a reference number, a letter without without a signature is no letter. There is nothing like a perfect crime, because if the person would have thought it twice, he or she would have placed a signature which suggested F. Quinto or something like that, so as to give an impression that it has been signed. Now, let me assume this thing. Supposing, let us go back to 1997. Supposing the secretary to the cabinet and head of the civil service wanted to sack a DO1, Laikipia DO1. The usual thing is that the secretary writes the letter sacking him, whether normally or summarily. He would write a letter, then forward it to the Directorate of Personnel Management. He would write a letter, write to Rigathi Gachagua, care of Directorate of Personnel Management. Then the Directorate of Personnel Management would use the same letter, forward it to the Provincial Commissioner, Rift Valley. The Directorate of Personnel Management would write to Rigathi Gachagua, care of Provincial Commissioner, Rift Valley. Forwarded herewith, please find a letter, blah, 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 reference number this, dated this, reference letter number this, reference number this, dated this and this, from the secretary to the cabinet and head of the public service, terminating your work from the civil service. It will be forwarded to the Provincial Commissioner, Rift Valley. The Provincial Commissioner, Rift Valley, will place another forwarding letter to Rigathi Gachagua, care of District Commissioner, Laikipia. Reference, termination of your duty. Please hereby, please kindly receive a letter, reference number this, blah, 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 from the secretary to the cabinet and head of the civil service, dated this and this, as forwarded by the Directorate of Personnel Management, letter number this, dated this and this, blah. And then when the letter reaches the district commissioner, Laikipia, the district commissioner will forward a similar letter, so that when you get a letter, it has so many references. Another thing, apart from the head of the civil service, the Directorate of Personnel Management, the PC's office, Provincial Commissioner's office, the District Commissioner's office have two files on DOs. Civil servants of the rank of Inspector of Police and above had two files at each level. At the Directorate of Personnel Management, at the Provincial Commissioners or Provincial Police Officers level, at the District or OCPD's level. Now, the letter of sacking, for a senior civil servant of the rank of Inspector and above, there were two files, the open file and the confidential file. The open file had these stories of you have been transferred here, you have gone here, you have gone on leave, such things. But things that getting medals, getting promotion, things such as disciplinary things such as annual appraisal reports are placed in the confidential file. So you'll find that in those letters, you are what do you call? Your PF, personal file, is the file number. So you find that from the Directorate of Personnel Management, your personal number is the file number. So you'll find that it will be written like my personal number was 123274. So the district commissioner, while reading the letter to the DO1, while forwarding it, he said, file number 123274 stroke 52. Please find a forwarding letter from the province 123274 stroke maybe 18. Because as it goes higher and higher, the number of references is lesser than the notes. So each of the letter from the Directorate of Personnel Management will have your personal number there. So in this letter, there is nothing written about Rigathi Gachagwa's personal number. That would have been reference number. Actually, the letter is just open. There is no reference number. And then on top of the page and at the bottom of the page, it is stamped confidential, showing that it is not an open letter. You cannot sack a you cannot sack a DO1, somebody who is on the same who is on the same job group with an OCPD, using an open, unsigned, and referenced letter. Then there is a question on the letter. It says that he has been summarily dismissed, while at the same time they make a reference to the show cause letter. There is a difference between a show cause letter and a summary dismissal. Let me give an example of a summary dismissal. There is this case of Laikipia Nanyuki, of an army major who killed his own child and killed the child's mother within the military camp. He was taken to court. When he was taken to court, while the case was going on in court, the military police took him on a plane to the Ministry of Defense in Nairobi, where he appeared before a court martial, and he was summarily dismissed and struck off all the military ranks and honors. That is a summary dismissal, whereby the military court, the court martial, was saying that being charged with murder and having killed people or even a person within the military camp, that calls for a summary dismissal. What does summary dismissal mean? We can even talk of people like Talam, the OCS Central. We can even talk of James Mukhwana and their colleague, I think it's Cheg or something. Those ones we can say it's summary dismissal. You could be having a very good file, a very good history in the service, but necessitating for Ojwang to hit his head on the cells until he dies, that one calls for a summary dismissal. Summary dismissal shows that you have a very good file and whatever, but this one mistake has been so big that you have to be sacked immediately. But then on the same forged letter, there is a reference where they have been saying that we gave you gave you letters to show cause. And in that forged letter, nobody is talking about which day, because in the civil service you have to quote all particulars. You have to say which day you gave the show cause day letter. You say we gave you a show cause letter on this and that day, and then you didn't answer that letter, or you answered by this and that. So you cannot say that we have given you a show cause and you didn't, without even referencing the letter we sent you, and referencing whether, you can be given a show cause letter and you respond, or you can be given a show cause letter and you don't respond. So it was even supposed to be indicated in the letter that we gave you a show cause letter on this, on that day, and you failed to respond. Or we gave you a short cause letter, reference this and this on this and that day, and either you failed to respond or you responded by giving unsatisfactory answers. As I said, it is a contradiction for you to be summarily dismissed and also at the same time told to show cause. So Kuindwa could not tell him that I'm summarily dismissing you and then saying that I'd given you a show cause letter and you didn't. Show cause letter is that somebody comes to your file and then suddenly discovers, because let's say you are supposed to have 5 disciplinary convictions, and then a new boss or even your boss just suddenly goes through your file and finds you have 7. So he or she will write to you and say, can you show cause why you cannot be terminated? Because on an ordinary circumstance, you are supposed to have 5 and you already have 7. But summary dismissal, your file may be so good. I think I've repeated that several times and people now understand. No date is shown of the show cause and its response. How can you desert duty and at the same time mismanage the relief food? For you to mismanage relief food, you have to be on duty. It is just like me, when I was being charged, I was told that I was drunk while on duty and I had left my place of work without being relieved. So I said, if I left my place of work without being relieved, then how was I that I was drunk? Or if I was drunk, then how was I? There are those things that contradict. But you see, mine, it is my bosses who are contradicting. And in this case, it is the draft of this letter who contradicts himself or herself. By on one side saying that Rigathi Gachagua absconded from duty, while at the same time saying that Rigathi Gachagua mismanaged relief food. How can you mismanage relief food when you have already escaped from your place of work? He says that your employment contract has been terminated. Your employment contract has been terminated. There are 2 types of people who are in 1997 were working on contract. There were 2 types. There is a type of people who are doing a job, a specific job. When it ends, it goes that way. So they are employed on contract. Or if you have reached the retirement age and the government still needed you, they would process your benefits and you'd be paid on contract, or which means whatever you are paid at the end of the month does not count to your pension. But what I know, Rigathi Gachagua and all other employees at that time, they were employed on permanent and pensionable scheme. How can somebody, a DO1 who is on permanent and pensionable scheme, the forged letter says that your employment contract has been terminated. They used to say that your services are not needed. But you see, this person was in a hurry. Actually, this letter was written when Gachagua was on good terms with the Ruto, and they were trying to campaign for the 2022. He's told to report to the Rift Valley PC to hand over and clearance. The question is, why didn't they tell him to hand over to the district commissioner like Laikipia? As we said, that in such a situation where somebody is forging, there is no forgery that can ever be. Even today, when we are using these things that are called AI, it can't go it can't go as anywhere near the real one. So that is how it is. It was not stamped confidential, both at the top of the page and at the bottom of the page. So it was just something like that, and it can easily confuse somebody who's not used to personnel issues, or it can even confuse somebody who hates Rigathi Gachagua to an extent that anything that you talk is illicitly swallowed. Just like the Kiambaa church issue, where people are just looking for any evidence to take to ICC without cross-examining. This document, just like any other forgery, will never stands. Most of such things, most of such cases succeed because we either are in a hurry to wish so and so ill. We are either in a hurry to wish so and so ill that we don't counter check, or we quickly accept it, or even the investigation officer is compromised and or does not due diligence investigations. You see, such cases, we don't pause and look between the lines and look at between and even evaluate left, right, and center. We just hurry to these things to an extent that to an extent that these things end up failing when it is checked. But if the investigation officer and all those who are there, if we take our time and look at it, we'll just come to realize that it is a forgery. This, as I said, is like the 2007 case where people knew that internationally Lotodo was known to be a warmonger. So why can't we just include the name of Lotodo anybody who has above average information about Kenya knows that Lotodo is numero uno on matters of tribal clashes. What they forgot, or no crime is perfect, is that Lotodo had died in the year 2000 in a hospital in Johannesburg. I'm not trying to say that Ruto did not participate in Kiambaa Church or he participated. No, I have no capacity to know whether he participated or not. But supposing he participated, then whoever included the name of Lotodo, thinking that it will be now easier to convict Ruto, ended up assisting Ruto. So it is always good to go by the fact. Now, let me talk about 1997. 1997, the forged letter is signed is dated August 1997. 1997, I was in Madeira, Karatina, the whole year, and this is what happened in that year. What happened in that year is that Rigathi Gachagua was one of those, Kikuyu, as I said, in Kikuyu land, in 1997, KANU was so much hated. KANU was so much hated that it could not, KANU was so much hated that it could not, you could not win any position. And in fact, even Uhuru Kenyatta was being told to his face that if Jomo Kenyatta was to wake up in the morning and, no, he was to wake up, sorry, from his grave, if he was to wake up from his grave and contested on the Cock party, he would still fail. But we had some Kikuyus who stuck by KANU. And among those people who stuck by KANU was Rigathi Gachagua. Now, do you want to tell me that Rigathi Gachagua could go to the elections standing by KANU, having been sacked by the same government? Actually, what had happened in 1997, because my spouse is the one who gave them the ID, the voters card. The voters card that Rigathi Gachagua has is what my spouse gave him in 1997. She was in charge of laminating voters cards in 1997 in what today is called Madeira West. There were two ladies. One was in Karatina, taking care of what is now called Madeira East, and my spouse was at a place called Kayaba, Kiriko Primary School, Kayaba, where she gave that. And the tension between Rigathi Gachagua and his late brother Derito Gachagua was so high because Derito Gachagua was supporting Democratic Party with Mwai Kibaki. He was supporting Democratic Party with Mwai Kibaki and Matu Wamai. Matu Wamai is the one who was contesting. And Rigathi was supporting Peter Kuguru, a relative of mine. He was supporting Peter Kuguru and he was supporting KANU. So telling me or telling anybody who was in Madeira in 1997 that Rigathi Gachagua was sacked in August and elections were held in December. So imagine being sacked in August and then you campaign for the same president and whatever. That is not. The things on the ground was different. In 1997, we knew that he was a DO somewhere. Now, maybe in Laikipia, I don't know. But he was a DO somewhere. And he was campaigning for Peter Kuguru, who was contesting on a KANU ticket. And he was also on KANU. Those were those DOs who were campaigning for KANU. It is good. We may, like now, I don't think I support Rigathi Gachagua. I don't think I support him. But when it comes to, I try my level best. I try my level best when presenting my things to be factual. And also, like this time, I've just said that I don't think I support him. But when issues are given that are contradicting from the truth, I stand by the truth. And the truth shall set you free.